Then you hit record. You see the record button, you see the red button, you see the moving numbers, then you're set. You recompose your shot, you sit down and get to your questions. Focus, I start recording, and I just hitch it over a little like that, and we start talking and you're fine. Okay. Okay?
What gave you the idea to start a school?
Because I started in private schools teaching, and then I went to public schools. I taught in 5 different states. I didn't like what I saw. I was going to leave education. And then I read Summerhill's, A.S. Neal's book, and had a crazy idea that I guess I'll start a school. That's the only way to stay in education. So I could do it the way I wanted to do it.
What were some of the obstacles you had to go through when you first started Riley?
Oh, heavens. Well, I came here without any money, and I borrowed the money from 3 banks because I had good credit. And I started with 6 children, and I built the first building the next year that I started the school in '73, because I ended up with 21 kids in the house. And then Catherine came, and she's been here 25 years, 26 years. Everything began to change. And now, you know, we're up to between 75 and 90 kids. And that makes a big difference. Okay, but it was a real struggle. It's amazing. If I ran a school the way I was brought up, I'd be running a military academy. And people ask me, because I don't understand. Most of the parents who come here, they're all out of traditional education, so it's very hard for them to get Riley. You kids get it instantly. I have had kids come for that week. In 2 days, they seem to get Riley just like that, what we're doing. But their parents don't. But the parents want something different. They don't want the public school education because they don't like what happened to them there, so many of them. So, but it's hard for them to accept what we do. But see, I don't know. I ask myself that question a lot of times. How did I get from that to this? But it wasn't until really I got to college that I could really explore things. And I want that to happen much younger. I want that to happen for my 4-year-olds and all of you.
What are some of the crazy things you saw?
Oh, I saw, well, number one, I can tell you what they used to call slow learners. I had noticed in any school I was in, most of the teachers didn't want slow learners in their classroom. Now, those kids have been treated so poorly that they didn't care, and if you pushed, they would react. Now, when they reacted negatively, the teacher would send them to the principal. The principal would send them home for a week, which didn't make any sense to me. And when they came back, now they're a week more behind in their work. You see how that works?
Yeah.
So how do they ever catch up? And those kids weren't going to catch up anyway. So the way they were treated, that really bothered me. I think to be a good teacher or so-called facilitator, we call them, you have to be impassioned and you have to love what you're doing. If you don't, you should get out. You shouldn't do it because you destroy too many kids when you're not excited about what you're doing. And I thought you had to be a good actor to be a good teacher, because then that whips things up a little and has fun, and you have fun. Learning should be fun. There's no reason why you couldn't have some fun. I don't know what all this control is about and why people are so afraid of kids. Kids are fine. It's the adults that create the problems. Parents and teachers, both. All need. You see, I don't know why people think kids are any different. We adults want to be loved, we want to be understood, and we want to be listened to. 3 important things to an adult. Why isn't that the same important thing to a 4-year-old over here?
What were you passionate about when you were a child?
Horses. I've ridden since I was 3. I loved horses, yes.
How old were you when you got your first horse?
I was 12, I think. And I also loved when I was a kid. You won't remember her, but you may have Amelia Earhart. I wanted to fly. I used to make model planes all the time. I thought I'd like to be. I always wanted to fly. I'll be a pilot, but that was another passion I had. So I made plane. I don't know what I do. I used to carve. I carved them out of. My father was head of First National for a long time, So he'd bring home the crates that oranges came in, had those slats, that was softwood. So he'd bring those home, and that's what I used to carve up and make my airplanes. Remember, there are no rules at Raleigh till you break one.
That's great.
My kids, there's nothing wrong. I tell parents and they don't believe me. They laugh. I just said to a parent the other day, I said, you know, the children here are not the problem. You are the problem. No, parenting's a tough job. And it doesn't mean because you never will. I'm not perfect. I don't do everything just right. I make mistakes. What you learn is take responsibility for the mistakes you make and correct them if you can. Simple. We learn more from our mistakes, by the way, than we do anything else. If I did a survey, this interests me, in this country of all teachers, I will guarantee you 99% would tell you that you learn more from mistakes than you do any other way. And yet, their grading system punishes you for mistakes because if you make enough mistakes, you fail the course. Isn't that ironic?
Mm-hmm.
You see that? So it's crazy to me what's going on out there. Oh, my philosophy is what I told you, unconditional love. We love every one of these children, and I think they all feel it from all the faculty. And I think that's where you begin. It's just like I do with my horses and my dog. You love, and certainly you may not like everything everybody's doing, but you talk to them about it. You don't threaten them. You realize how they handle you in most schools is fear, guilt, and shame. Those are psychological parts of us. That's an important part of us, okay? So when you use those things, you destroy a lot of the creativity and the motivation that every human being has to do things and find out who they are and become who they can become. I want every child, this is part of the big philosophy of Raleigh, is that every child has great potential. I want you to find the ways that you can fulfill your potential. I am not here, my faculty is not here to make you into whom we think you ought to be. I want you to find out who you are while you're here, to give you the strength to continue that as you go on.
What do you look for in a teacher at Riley?
Oh, well, the first thing they have to do is to love children. The second thing they need to know is whatever subject matter they're going to work in, they better know it, but I don't want them imposing their information on my kids. And third, they have to be able to build a trust between them and each student that they have and encourage and support the philosophy that we have. You're the ones learning. That's why we do what we do here. We set you up to try to figure it out with other kids. And if you can't, you can get some support. You get support nurturing from the faculty. But you have to do it. You have to participate in your learning. That makes it exciting. Isn't that more exciting sitting in a chair having it done to you? Because that's what they do in public school. They sit you down and fill you full of all kinds of facts and information. You're supposed to memorize them, and you're supposed to give them back exactly as most of the teachers give it to you. That's what it's about. That's not exciting, and that's not real learning. When you first came into this world as a little baby, how did you learn so much before you ever went to school? Two things you did. In fact, the two most difficult things you ever learned in your life and learned before you ever went to school. That interests me. One, you learned your language, and one, you learned to walk. Two most difficult things a human being ever learns. Now, you did that, a lot of it, you developed your language through play. I've watched little kids sitting, and they're talking with each other all the time, developing their language. They don't know that that particularly is going on, but that's what happens to them, and it's exciting. You see? And the difference here is that, like your mother, boy, when you say the first word, your parents are really excited about it. And they show it in the expression in their face. And they say, oh, or when you take that first step that you can walk from them to another person, they get very excited about it. Well, that's the way it should be in a school, that people are excited about what happens. I hate people, oh gosh, I've hit 40 or I've hit 50, it's horrible. No, it's not. Every stage is a wonderful stage you go through. And you expand yourself further and further. I'm still learning. I've been in this business over 50 years, I can tell you that. I don't know much yet. I'm still learning. That's what's exciting about it. And where do I learn most of it? From my kids. Kids do not come mean. Kids do not come difficult. 99% of the children born in this country are fine. It's what we as adults do with them. And that's tragic. And we need to wake up and take the responsibility for it and do something about it. Because kids learn meanness, they learn to manipulate, they learn to do these things that adults don't like. Well, where do they learn those things? From the adults.
Right.
Oh boy.